Take a deep breath and concentrate. Dictation will begin in 15 seconds. Get ready. Start.
We all have gathered here for an important conference. It is important in the first instance because it is the first meeting of the state ministers of rural development, rural housing, and Panchayati Raj after my government took office in New Delhi. Hence, I must at the very outset both welcome you to this conference and thank you for giving me this opportunity to meet important representatives of the state government. But a greater reason that lends importance to this conference is its subject rural development, rural housing, and Panchayati Raj constitute an interdependent set of concerns which are at the very heart of India's present and future national development. Precisely because of this reason, they are at the heart of the national agenda for governance, which is the blueprint of my government's policies and priorities. To explain the importance of rural development in the context of our common dream of building a new India is to belabor the obvious. India is a land of villages. Between 60 and 70% of our population live in villages and is engaged in agriculture and allied activities. When it is said that India is an ancient nation and this fact makes all of you proud, it is well recognized that what constitutes her rich heritage is her village based culture and agriculture. It is on the solid foundation of this ancient culture that India is emerging as a potentially strong and modern economy. I have used the term potentially with deliberate intent and emphasis. It points to a historic possibility well within our reach. It also powerfully reminds us that the possibility of India becoming a strong economy and a strong nation depends crucially on the attention we pay to the all round development of our villages and our agriculture. This is where the subject of today's conference assumes its paramount importance. I would even go as far as to say that both from a short term and long term point of view, ministries of rural development, rural housing, and Panchayati Raj are the most important ministries in our union and state governments. I wish to underscore this core belief of mine because it goes against conventional wisdom and practice hitherto followed. Rural development is the engine of India's national development. Immediately after I assumed charge of the Ministry of Education in January this very year, I looked into the development projects which had been accepted in principle but not carried out in practice. Of these, one of the most outstanding was the scheme for a central college of training for teachers. The Central Advisory Board of Education had, in December this year, recommended the establishment of two training colleges, one for men and the other for women, each providing for an intake of 200 students for the service of the centrally administered areas and the smaller provinces and states. On the grounds of economy, the government of India modified that recommendation and decided to establish one college for both men and women with a capacity of 300. Provision was accordingly made in the budget as per the recommendations of the committee for the establishment of the college. When I took office, I was there surprised to find that the whole program had been held up on the ground of shortage of building materials. I was aware of the difficulties in securing steel and cement and other equipment, and I could understand the delay in the implementation of the building program. I could not, however, understand why this led to a postponement of the entire scheme. Even if buildings were lacking, the institute could have been started in temporary structures or hired houses. But here, as in so many other cases, programs of educational development were held up on the ground of lack of accommodation. This undue stress upon buildings has always seemed to me to be an instance of confusing ends with means. Buildings are only a means of which the end is education, and yet it seemed to me that many of our educational planners were so engrossed with building projects that they could not think of carrying on educational work in their absence. I therefore decided forthwith that the institution must be started immediately with whatever accommodation was readily available. The period was an exceedingly difficult one, and all the attention of the government was concentrated first on the disturbances in the Punjab and later on the impending division of the country. Even then, a small house was secured in the Delhi University area in July this very year. I realized that this was not adequate for our needs now and the work of the institute in the future. It is hardly necessary for me to relate at length the importance of an institute of this kind, with literacy figures so low as only 15%. The paramount importance of expanding the facilities of education is obvious. The acceptance of democracy as the pattern of our state has, if anything, added to the urgency of the problem. It is also self evident that the first step towards expanding the facilities of education is to provide for an increase in the number of trained teachers. Equally necessary is an institution to assess the results of educational methods followed till now and devise improvements demanded in the challenging circumstances of today. It will be noticed that the institution, which was started in December this very year, was the Central Institute of Education and not the training college which had originally been planned in 1944 and 1945. This meant not merely a change in nomenclature but a considerable expansion in the purpose and functions of the institution. I felt that changes were necessary in two directions. First, it should not be merely a college for training teachers, but also an institution for research in the fields of education. Secondly, its services should not be restricted to the centrally administered areas but should extend to the whole of India. The Central Institute will therefore both train teachers for higher and secondary schools and also carry on research on the problems of basic and secondary education. The stage at which a child should be introduced to a craft as distinct from activity. The relative emphasis on craft and academic subjects and their correlation, the production of a new type of school literature to bring out the social functions of all human activity. The degree of abstraction possible in the earlier stages of education, the stage at which there may be some bifurcation between academic subjects and crafts, the grouping of children according to aptitude, taste, and ability, the place of art in the school curriculum. These are only a few of the many problems which arise out of a new conception of basic education and require constant and careful study in a research institution. There are also problems relating to adult education which demand fresh and careful scrutiny. It is a commonplace that the methods which are suitable for children cannot, without modification, be applied to adults. No doubt, a good deal of work in this connection has been done in other countries of the world, but each country has its own peculiar problems arising out of its social and economic background and its political history now. I deem it a privilege and an honor to meet you, the students and teachers of the Tribhuvan University, and to spend a few happy moments in your midst. For one who, like me, has been a teacher all his life, it is always a stimulating and encouraging experience to meet young students and scholars engaged in the pursuit of knowledge and discovery. This is all the more so on this occasion because of the strong ties of common traditions and shared values which have united Nepal and India throughout the centuries. A university is a powerful instrument not only for all sided development of one's nation but for the progress of mankind as a whole. A university, said Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, stands for humanism, for tolerance, for reason, for the adventure of ideas, and for the search of truth. It stands for the onward march of the human race towards even higher objectives. If the universities discharge their duties adequately, then it is well for the nation and the people. This university, named after the great father of the Nepalese nation, is developing in a manner worthy of all the universalism, modernism, and spirit of freedom and equality that he stood for. It has made a valuable contribution to the development of modern Nepal, and I have no doubt that it will make an even more significant contribution to the social, cultural, and economic development of your country in the days ahead and help it to assume its rightful place in the Committee of Nations. I am extremely happy that we in India have fully associated ourselves to the best of our ability in the building up of this country university from its very inception. We feel proud of this collaboration, which has been of considerable benefit to ourselves. I feel particularly happy to be associated with the construction on this beautiful campus of a new building which has been named after Mahatma Gandhi, whose birth sanitary year is now being celebrated in India and in several other countries of the world. Among other things, this building will provide a hall for discussion and discourses on religious and cultural subjects with a special reference to the contribution made by Gandhiji in these fields. The people of India and Nepal, as well as of other countries, feel very close to Gandhiji for his principal teachings, which have an eternal value. The developing countries of Asia, including Nepal and India, are now facing tremendous challenges in the field of development. They have to modernize their traditional social systems, maintaining that what is good in the old and imbibing what is good in the new, and harmonizing continuity with change. They have to develop agriculture and industry very rapidly and to secure quick economic growth, which will ensure at least a minimum living standard to every citizen. They have also to strive to reduce the wide gap between their level of development and that of the industrially advanced countries. These challenges facing the Asian countries are really challenges for you, the rising generation, and it is on you vision, wisdom, competence, and dedicated hard work that their solutions will largely depend. In this great national task, the major effort will have to come from the people themselves, but their efforts could be considerably strengthened in 2 days. The first is assistant from developed countries who owe a duty to themselves as well as to the less privileged nations of the world to reduce the widening gap in the standards of living in the advanced and backward countries. And the second is the equally important collaboration between the developing nations themselves, who have so much to give as well as to receive in the sharing of experiences and implementing cooperative projects of mutual benefit. Every nation and every generation has to fight anew its own battles for freedom, freedom from hunger and want, disease and ignorance from foreign domination, economic and political. The people of my generation in India had to devote their energies mainly to win the battle for political freedom. But now the people of your generation, both in Nepal and in India, have to fight other and more difficult battles. The battles for freedom from ignorance, from hunger, from degrading poverty, and from all such other things that impede the full development of the human personality. I am very happy to find that the people of Nepal have accepted this challenge and that they also consider it an opportunity which should be met with strength, dignity, discipline, and fortitude. I congratulate you on launching yourselves upon this noble task and wish you every success in your program of building up a modern Nepal, which still accept the best that the new world has to offer while still preserving all that is precious, noble, and glorious in the rich heritage of this land. Now it shall be the constant endeavor of the people and the government of my country to be of all such assistance to you as we are capable of. Stop.